Well, the White House is considering support for a new financial instrument to stimulate home buying here in America, a 50-year mortgage. The head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency calls it a complete game changer. Extending the duration of a home loan would decrease monthly payments. Critics, though, point out that borrowers will pay much more interest over the life of the loan, and it will take longer to build equity. High prices and mortgage rates are combining to put home ownership out of reach for younger Americans. CBN's Brody Carter explains.
As one of the fastest growing states, Utah has seen home values explode, up to 44% in just 2 years. That boom has busted family budgets, pushing the average home price over $500,000. The problem boils down to economics: too many buyers and not enough product. Nationally, there's a shortage of roughly 6 million homes.
Most people who are renting here in Utah are spending over 50% of their income on housing.
Zoe Newman with the Utah Housing Coalition sees a vast growing difference between what people earn and what they need to afford a home.
From 2020 to 2025, that housing wage has grown $10, over $10. That is insane.
Over the past 10 years, mortgage payments have more than doubled in major U.S. cities, driven largely by higher interest rates. According to the National Association of Realtors, only 1 in 5 households can afford a medium-priced home in America, the lowest share in decades.
It's not just sort of building affordable housing, it's building housing that the average household, especially people buying for the first time, can afford.
Professor Simon Stevenson, an economist at ODU in Virginia, explains the very definition of affordable housing no longer applies only to the poorest. Today, even average families are struggling, whether it's qualifying for a mortgage or competing with a surge of all-cash buyers.
There aren't that many sellers because people are reluctant to sell. If they locked in, whether they bought or refinanced 4, 5, 6 years ago when rates were down, to around 3%, you're not going to sell unless you have to.
The lack of affordability is also delaying generational milestones, as many young people put off buying a home or even starting a family.
People are buying later, whereas sort of say in the 60s, 70s, people were settling down and marrying earlier. So people were buying a home. My parents, my dad was 24, my mum was 23, they bought a house. That doesn't happen. People are marrying later, but the affordability issue is playing a big role.
Among those hardest hit are seniors on fixed incomes and people with disabilities. For those who can afford it, Stevenson advises now could be the time to act. With demand cooled, prices could climb again as soon as rates fall.
If you can afford to buy now, then you can refinance in 3, 4 years' time, reduce those monthly costs, and I think you're in a better position.
For many families, however, the American dream of homeownership is shrinking. Without policy shifts or a market correction, experts warn that dream will continue to slip further out of reach. Reporting in Salt Lake City, Brody Carter, CBN News.
And Gordon, as you all know, home ownership is seen as the gateway for producing generational wealth.
It is, but at the same time, you have to look realistically at the cost of home ownership. And right now, it's so high, is it really going to lead to generational poverty? Because at 50% of your income, that frankly is unsustainable. And are you going to be saving up for the future? The issue on generational wealth is, are you building net worth, and is that happening over time? As long as home prices are going up, you can say, well, I'm building equity in my home. One thing that I need to point out is the high cost of construction, and that is absolutely fueled by the inflationary spiral that happened under President Biden. That the price of lumber quadrupled. And at this point in time, it's nearly impossible to build a home that the average 30-year-old or 35-year-old or even 40-year-old can afford to pay. That is an astounding fact. Now, were there supply chain problems? Was it pandemic demand where everybody wanted a bigger home because everybody had to stay home? And if you were in a small home, you were on top of each other and you didn't like it. So all of those factors went into it. But at this point, it's the high cost of construction along with high interest rates makes it nearly impossible for someone. And if you're locked into a current low interest rate, well, you view that as literally an asset and you don't want to give it up. You don't want to get a better home. You don't want to move because the cost really is unaffordable. All of that means no inventory for sale. And if there's a demand for housing, well, what's going to happen? Well, prices are going to go up. So we're locked into it. When you look at is a 50-year mortgage a solution, I do want to point out the history of so-called incentives for real estate. It always leads to price increases. So when the federal government gets into the mix and says, well, we're going to make loans easier to get, or we're going to give you a home interest deduction. I'm not arguing that that be taken away. It's impossible for it to be taken away. But when that was put in place, that started the inflationary cycle of home ownership right here in America, because the availability of credit coupled with I can deduct the interest meant more people were willing to pay higher prices for real estate. We're now into the end of that cycle, and we'll see what happens, but demand is not drying up, so prices are going to continue to go up.